Hey everybody, what is going on? Welcome back to another Q&A video here at the Shed Organics. My name is Jordan and I'm going to attempt to answer some of your questions that you've sent in or left on previous Q&A videos that we didn't have time to get to. But most of the ones I pulled today are a focus on a bit of summery or this time of year here in Australia for summer gardening. So let's dive straight into it. So, first question comes from Sydney. I'm in Sydney and the heat waves have been brutal this summer, us too in Queensland. My veggie garden keeps wilting by midday, no matter how much I water it in the morning. What can I do to protect my plants? Yeah, we're getting some insane temperatures here as well, prolonged periods of intense sun, and then, torrential rain, which I've spoken about in other videos as well. Uh, it's same in Sydney and often in Melbourne as well. You get these intense, scorchingly hot days, and vegetables just do not like it. It's just too hot. It's almost like a desert out there. So first things first, if you can't move things around, if they're not in pots, and you can't move things around, my first initial recommendation is to install a bit of shade cloth. Now you can go and get some recycled. There's plenty on Marketplace and things like this. I highly suggest doing that first before buying some new stuff, but it's relatively cheap and you can get yourself different grades of shade cloth as well. Some just providing a little bit and some completely blacking out the sun almost pretty much the whole thing. So my first one is to go and get some shade cloth. See if you can, staple it up to the fence and just create some sort of temporary thing that just goes over the top of your veggie plot, just to give it a little bit of shade. Now, if it's summer, you don't want to completely obscure the entire patch. So either use a thin, sort of slightly less obscure, I guess, shade cloth, or just do a partial one where, or even a portable one where you can kind of move it around and have this sort of umbrella type effect where you just move it around based on how the temperatures are. But if you're watering deeply in the morning, that's the first one. And then if you're using mulch to protect the soil from heating up too much and basically losing all of that moisture, then you're just going to have to go for some shade or try and maybe think about next summer planning where else you could plant these particular crops to protect them from the intense sun. Hope that helps. Second question, we're going up to Brisbane, Queensland here, where I am, and we're asking what are the best vegetables to plant during summer here that can handle the heat and the humidity, which is intense at the moment. So yes, there's quite a lot. Even though we are into January already, you still can get some out of your summer crops. So you might get a late harvest out of your pumpkins. There's cucumbers, there's corn, there's eggplants, things like basil, tomatoes. Although we may have to use slightly more shade for the tomatoes because they can get absolutely rinsed in the sun. So things like this, they're going to be prolific at the moment if you can get the right spot and going back up to question one, if you can give them adequate shade if they need it, then I think you'll be well on your way. We can also start some seeds for the next coming seasons, but just make sure that if you're starting some of your winter seeds or things a little early, then make sure you bring them into a spot where they're nice and shady and they have like nice cool breeze and they're not going to heat up too much because otherwise we're just not going to get the germination that we're after. So yeah, focus on those crops is my best advice, and you'll probably get a nice harvest towards the end of our summer months. All right, question number three comes all the way over from WA in Perth. My tomato plants are being devoured by caterpillars. Is there an eco-friendly way to keep these pests away? We've spoken about caterpillars before on some of my shorts and reels if you've seen some of those, so make sure you head over to some of my social channels and you'll be able to find those. But essentially, caterpillars, for me, if I'm out in the garden in the morning, I'm on caterpillar hunt, well, pest hunt every day, basically. You're trying to monitor your plants. It's good to get out there and have a look and see how everything is faring. But caterpillars, they get plucked off and fed to my chickens often, because my chickens love them. They also deal with some of the pests that are around the place anyway, but they get fed. I also, if it's pretty intense and I want to try and do a bit of a preventative, I'll often use neem oil, some cold pressed organic neem oil as a evening spray to just lightly foliar spray all over the stuff, just to kind of do a bit of pest management and prevention as well. So it is going to help your caterpillar problem, but also it's not necessarily going to get rid of them and kill them straight away. If we completely just douse the plant in neem, it's probably not good for the plant either, especially because when it's done in sunshine, it can burn. It's an oil. So if you've got oil on the plants, it actually burns and creates a much hotter environment on the leaf or on the stem and can really damage your plant. So hand picking for me, caterpillars is best. There's also, you can buy, it's called Dipple, or you can buy Nature's Way, do one out of Bunnings that's a BT spray essentially, which is a good one for caterpillars. So have a look into that. Other ways you can introduce beneficial insects, ladybugs, or people do talk about companion plants, marigolds, basil, things like this. But uh, in my experience, they're not as effective as something like neem, hand picking, obviously, and then other beneficial insects. So you want to try and create that diverse ecosystem so that we're not missing out on anything that can help us deal with those caterpillars. All right, next question. We're going to be talking a little bit about natives and natives, especially up in the top regions of Australia where it's a little bit hot. But the question is, I'm in the Northern Territory and I want to add more native plants to my garden. Which native flowers or shrubs thrive in the summer heat and can attract birds? Um, well, birds are a nice thing to have in the garden. We want to try and attract many forms of wildlife if we can, bar a few. But my main concern is obviously getting ones that are right for the heat, and obviously ones that can maybe provide some flowers or provide some sort of attractant to the birds. So first thought goes to something like grevilleas. Kangaroo paw is a really good one. There's like plenty of kangaroo paw up here in Australia, in Queensland, that does really, really well. What's another one? Bottle brush. That can be a really good one. Bottle brush is another one that can attract some birds and things like this. Uh, well, my little cockatiels that I have absolutely love all of these natives when they come into season and you get this sort of sweet thing. So I put some of those into their big aviary and they can have a little munch on some of those and they love it. They absolutely love it. So hope that helps. Have a look into some native nurseries as well. So if you head into your local garden center and nurseries, you can see the ones that are thriving and doing well in the heat in the current environment. So local nurseries will be a really good place for you to start, just having a little look around. And I'm sure there's a few helpful locals that can help you up there in the territory. So yeah, hope that helps. All right, this one is all the way down from the luscious land of Tasmania. And Tasmania is just a beautiful country. It reminds me very much of New Zealand, where I lived for many years. Um, Slightly cooler climate and cooler summers, so it's a lot easier to grow some of the summer stuff that actually can deal with a little bit cooler climate. And this is part of the question. So in Tasmania, I want to grow fruit trees. Are there any that can handle the cooler summer climate but still thrive in the sunniest spots? What a tongue twister that was. Um, Cooler summers. So, my first thought, things like apples, pears, plums, things like that. You want to choose varieties like a pink lady or even some of the European varieties of the plums and things like this. They can really deal with some of those cooler climates because even though it does get quite warm on occasion, and same in Europe, you can get ones that can handle some of the cooler nights or often when it gets cold during the winters. they can deal with that. They're well and truly accustomed to some of those cooler climates. So interestingly, for Tasmania, because it is slightly different to the rest of the country, especially up here in Queensland, you really want to be looking for things that mimic, well, are mimicked in other climates around the world. So have a little think about some areas of Europe, some European varieties. Although I do really love to try and promote local stuff. So again, heading to your local nursery, seeing what's doing really well in the summer, asking your neighbors, asking people around the community that have thriving fruit trees in your community is a really good way of understanding what does well where you are. Because even in Tasmania, you could be right down the bottom in Hobart or up the top in Launceston or something, and it's very, very different even in that small space. So you might want to just have a little chat to some of the locals and find out what is doing well. Okay, last one is one that I didn't really expect to be talking about, but we're talking about lawns. And even though I'm not a huge fan of a grass lawn or anything like that, they're everywhere. Loads of people have them. I have plenty of grass lawn. It's just the way it is in a lot of our properties. So, here's the question. My lawn looks brown and patchy during the summer, even though I'm watering it regularly. How can I keep it green without overwatering? So, talking about brown lawns, that's something pretty common up in the hotter areas of the country. Something that I do is in the summer I will mow the lawn slightly higher, so I'm not taking off a huge amount of the grass. If you, for example, aim to take off 20 to 30% of the height, or even up to 50% of the height, you're actually, you're staying within that region where the grass can bounce back. If you're doing a large percentage and chopping, most of it, so it's really, really short, you're actually really stunting the grass, and you're kind of providing quite a lot of shock to the grass, which in turn is then going to mean that it's going to grow slower and struggle a little bit more. It also means that the root system and the soil that it's actually growing in is more exposed to the sun and the heat. So certainly leaving it a little bit longer, it doesn't mean that you have to leave it to grow longer. It just means that when you cut it, it's just not quite as low as you might have in the winter months, or even in sometimes in the spring where it's really, really kicking off and there's loads of growth. So that's number one. Second thing is to aerate the roots. If you have like quite dense soil, or it's really dry and kind of you can't get your fork or your spade into the ground, try and aerate it. So there's soil aerators, or you can even just use your fork after you've watered heavily and just get in there and aerate some of it so that you can get some of the water down into the soil. Helps keep it nice and moist, and your grass is gonna absolutely love it. Um, the last thing is the watering. If you are watering regularly, I would just make sure you're either watering super early in the morning so it gives it a chance to actually soak in and be used for the day, or if not, last thing at night. Like most of our vegetable crops, we try and avoid watering at night so the water's not sitting on the leaves, providing any mildew or anything like that. But grass is super tolerant of these types of things. So I would just, yeah, anytime you can get water into it where it's going to have a chance to actually soak into the ground and be used, I'd focus on that. So a few tips for your lawn there as well. So that concludes today's Q&A episode. Last time we actually did a live Q&A, which was super fun on Facebook. I might schedule another one for the following Q&A. So if you didn't see that one, go check it out. But also come follow us over on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of the ones where you're seeing this video. Go and jump over to some of the other platforms, because you never know what you're going to miss out on. And often I'm going on different platforms to do different lives or interactions with you guys. So having that live backwards and forwards was super fun, and I'm really keen to do one again. So please jump over and do that. Second thing, remember the free organic growers guide is still on the website. So if you are looking to switch into organics, go and download that. The link is in the description below. It's free. It's just a basic guide of how to get started and some considerations on organic gardening. Finally, if you want some fertilizer or some cover crop seeds and you're in Australia, I've got plenty to send out for the coming months to really give that boost for the end of summer. Keep those nutrients up nice and high. So head to the website and you can find yourself some awesome fertilizer and cover crop blends. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please let us know in the comments section below or hit the like button. Please follow along for more videos, and we'll see you again very soon.